before we continue with our chapter 10. I think I'm going to finish by today, and we're going to discuss a little bit on chapter 11. Yeah. So before that, how's your group project? Have you decided topic that you want to do? Already decided, eh? Okay, good. So, but I need to check whether you have duplicate topic or not. So I think after the class, I want you to send to me in the WhatsApp group. Yeah. So what is your group topics? Okay. So only the leader of the group to respond in the WhatsApp group. To give me the title of your topic. Okay. So those who give the title after the other group already done, so you need to find another topic. But I mentioned to you, try to avoid the duplication of the topic. Yeah. But if you cannot avoid that, I can allow only 2 groups for one topic. Okay. Is that clear? Okay, second announcement. We are going to do the second attempt for SBA 1 on this coming Tuesday. Okay, for those who want to take that exam, you can do it on Tuesday. I will let you know the time. Okay. All right. I think we already discussed about this email, SMTP, POP3, IMAP. Okay, so what is the difference between POP3 and IMAP? Can anyone respond to me? Okay, as we know that SMTP is only used when you want to send email, okay, from client to the server, as well as from server to server. Okay, but when you want to read your email, you want to download your email, you need to use POP3 or IMAP. Okay, Post Office Protocol. IMAP meaning that Internet Message Access Protocol. Okay, so what is the difference between these two protocol? Okay, for POP3, okay, when you use POP3 to read your email will be downloaded to your laptop. Okay, you download it to your laptop, and there is no more email in the server. Okay, but for IMAP, you can download to the laptop, but you can also restore your email in the server. It will not remove the email in your server if you use IMAP. Okay, POP3, all the email in the server will be downloaded to your laptop. Okay, so for example, when you want to access to this email server by using another laptop, you cannot read your previous email because it's already been downloaded to the laptop. Okay, so you need to always have the laptop with you to read your previous email. Yeah, that is the main difference between POP3 and IMAP. Okay, is that clear? Now we're going to move on to DNS. Okay, domain name server, domain name system, okay, or domain name service. Okay, so they are all the same. Yeah. So what is the main function of DNS? Okay, just to repeat. Okay, the DNS is like your phone book, your contact number. Okay, usually you will remember your friend name instead of their mobile phone, right? So similarly with DNS, we always remember the server name instead of the IP address. As a human, we remember the server name, but for the computer, they will remember the they need to know the IP address. So like your phone book, you remember the name of our friend, but when you want to call, you need to have the numbers. Okay, you don't call their name. Okay. So domain name service. So basically, DNS server matches the domain name with the IP address. Okay. You have a DNS query to the DNS server. So in our laptop, okay, you will have the DNS server configuration. Let me show you. Okay, if you go to your command prompt, you can see you type ipconfig.all, ipconfig./.all. Okay, so you can see the DNS server like this one. Okay, DNS server. Okay, this is the IP version 6. Okay, but here for IP version 4, I have the DNS server in UUM is 10.2.4.52 and 10.2.4.51. So in UUM, we use two DNS servers. One is .52, another one is .51. Okay, so you can check in your command prompt in your PC. So each PC must have this configuration. Okay, so this is where you need to have the DNS. So for example, you type www.cisco.com, okay, when you request for the DNS, it will translate into it will give you the IP address of cisco.com. So this is the format of the message, okay. So you have A, so you represent the and N devices of IP address, okay, and S an authoritative name server, and N devices application version 6 address, and MX the mail exchange record. Okay, so you will have the header, the question, the answer, and the authority server, and additional information in that message. Okay, so this is important part. Okay, so the DNS, okay, it is designed in a hierarchy structure. Okay, so there are three main hierarchy structure here. Number one, you will have the second level domain servers, or you call it as a local DNS servers. Okay, and then you have a top level domain servers. Okay, so this top level domain servers will represent, so whether the web page that you want to access is a .com. Okay, we always have something.com or something.org, something.au.co.edu. Okay, so all these are the top level domain servers. Okay, so on top of the top level domain server, we will have a root DNS servers. Okay, so root DNS servers. So you have root DNS servers, and then you have top level domain servers, and then you have a local DNS servers or secondary level domain servers, or another one you will have the authoritative servers. Okay, authoritative server is a company that provide the domain to the web page. Okay, for example, if you want to have your own web page, okay, you have www.kuzairi.com. So I need to register my domain with a company. So this company is the one we call it as a authoritative servers. Okay. Okay, I show you how it works, yeah, so that you can have more understand. Okay, can you see my slides? Boleh nampak slide Okay, now assuming that there is a user, okay, he want to access www.abc.com. Okay, so this is the first time that the user want to access abc.com. So what we'll do is that he will request from the DNS, the local DNS server first. Okay, for example, if I am in the UUM, I will request from UUM DNS server first, which is 10.4. something just now that I showed to you. So from this one, assuming that this server, the local server, have no information, okay, about the IP address of the abc.com. So what he need to do, the local server will request to the DNS root server. Okay, so you see step number 2 here. Okay. You can see step number 2. So the local DNS servers will request the IP address of .com domain. Okay. So what happened here? The DNS root server will look at it. Okay, this is www.abc.com. Okay. So the root server will send the .com domain IP address. Okay. So it will send the .com domain IP address to the local servers. Then the local server will request, okay, the IP of the abc.com, the authoritative server for abc.com to the top level domain server. Okay, so the 5th step, okay, so the DNS server domains.com will send the IP of the authoritative DNS servers to the local DNS server, and then the local DNS server will request IP of abc.com from the authoritative servers, the one that you buy your domain from the company. Yeah? That is the authoritative server. So this authoritative server will send the IP address of abc.com, and then the local DNS server will send to the users, and then the user will connect directly to the abc.com. Okay, so basically there are 8 steps before you can access to the server. So the abc.com IP address will be stored, okay, in the cache of the local DNS servers. Yeah. So next, let's say if there is another users who want to access to abc.com, so the local DNS server can give directly the IP address of abc.com to the users, so that the local DNS server doesn't have to do the same processes that he has done before. Okay, so the IP will stored in the cache of the servers. Okay, so therefore, that can be used by another users. Yeah, so that's why in UUM, if I already access www.cisco.com, okay, the IP address of cisco.com will be stored in the local UUM DNS servers. So next time when my friend or my colleague want to access the same website, so the local server doesn't have to do the same processes. Doesn't have to request from the root server, doesn't have to request from top level domain servers, and doesn't have to request to authoritative DNS server anymore, because the IP address already been located in the local servers. Okay, so this is only done during the first access of the website. Okay, so I hope you're clear. So this is the structure. You have a DNS root server, you have a top level domain server, and then you have authoritative DNS servers, and then you have a local servers. Okay, so all these things. So if you want to do your project, there is also 2 types of DNS. One is iterative and recursive. Okay, you can do in for your project if you want. Recursive DNS and iterative DNS. They are a bit different about that. Okay, so that one I leave it for groups that want to do that. Okay. Okay. This one, okay, I showed to you already. Okay, you can check in your command prompt. Okay, in Windows command prompt, just follow ns lookup. Okay, it will give you the address. Yeah, you can try it. Okay, and then let's see the dynamic host configuration protocol. Okay, so DHCP. Okay, as we discussed before, all the end devices must have IP address. Okay, IP address can be obtained whether you can configure the IP address manually, okay, or you can obtain the IP address automatically. In order to obtain the IP address automatically, you need to have the DHCP server. Okay. If you look in the this corporate network, it's like a UEM network. Okay, we have our own DHCP servers. Okay. If you look in the command prompt, you can see the DHCP server IP address. And at home, you will have your own DHCP server also in your wireless LAN, in your Wi-Fi. Okay. And you also have a DHCP server at the ISP level. Okay. So this is when you have these mobile workers. So this is how it works. Okay. So you can also use this topic for your group project. Okay. First, okay, DHCP client, okay, discover. So DHCP server will offer the IP address. Okay. So DHCP request and DHCP acknowledgement. Yeah. Okay, the client may receive multiple DHCP offer. Okay, if there is more than one DHCP server on the local network. Okay, if you have more than one DHCP server in the local network, okay, you have offer by two different DHCP servers. Okay, so then you need to choose which one you want to use. Okay, this is called DHCP request. Okay, DHCP request is from the DHCP client. Yeah. And then DHCP, the one that you choose will send the acknowledgement. Okay. And then they will give you your IP address and as well as the DNS IP address. Okay. And FTP, apalah, this one you baca sendiri lah. You can read by saya FTP. Nothing much on FTP. Okay, so let's have a look on chapter 11. Yeah, so let's just finish early lah. Now, in chapter 11, so we're going to learn about how to design a simple network, a small network. So, for example, I like to give an example. In the petrol station, okay, how would be the connection to the internet? Anyone know? Okay, so for the small business network, usually, okay, you will have this the local area network, the switch, the router connected to the wide area network. Okay, so I think in chapter 2 or chapter, I can't remember, in chapter 1 or chapter 2, we already discussed a few connection for a small business can use to connect to the internet. Okay, one of it is called DSL, digital subscriber line. Yeah? So this is similar like you subscribe to your Streamix or Unify. Yeah. So that one we use DSL or ADSL or DSL or XDSL. Okay. Digital subscriber line. Okay. Another services that you can use to connect to the internet for small business is using lease line. Okay. So lease line meaning that you have a dedicated connection from your premise to the nearest ISP building. Okay, and now another services that you can use to connect to the internet for your small business network is using Ethernet connection. Ethernet similar like the local area network. Okay, so for petrol station, what do they use to connect to the internet? Sometimes they use the parabola kan, the satellite. Okay, but I think nowadays most of them they use DSL. Okay, for example, if you go to you buy something and then you want to pay using your credit card. Okay, so the credit card you need to verify with the servers. They need to have some connection. Okay, so what are types of connection they use? I think most of them nowadays, okay, they use DSL. Okay. Okay, when you want to buy the devices, okay, for your companies, for the organization, the first thing that you need to know is the cost. Okay, how much money that the company have. Okay, because a different category of switch or router will have different costs. Okay, if you use high-end routers, you will have to pay more, and you have used high-end switch, also you have to pay more. So it depends how much money that you have in your pocket. Yeah, okay, different routers will have different capabilities. Yeah. Another one is that you also need to know the redundancy of the network. Okay, how many redundancy that you need to do for your network. Right? Another one is the devices that you need to know is the number of ports required. Okay, whether you want to use 24 ports or whether you want to use 48 ports, 36 ports, it depends. Okay, so this one also have different impact on the cost. Apart from the number of ports, you also need to know what are the interfaces for that ports. Are you going to use 10/100 megabit per second interfaces, or are you going to use gigabit Ethernet interfaces, or are you going to use what connection? Okay, is it going to be you're going to use fiber optic for the cable, or are you going to use for copper cable? Okay, so this also you need to know the type of ports. The type of ports for fiber optic is different from type of ports for copper cable. Okay, the types of interface for gigabit Ethernet has different costs from the 10/100 megabit per second Ethernet. Yeah. So the port also play important roles. Not only the number of ports, but also the types of interfaces for the ports. Okay. So speed. Okay, I already mentioned just now. What are the speeds required? And then expandable. So whether the device can be expanded or not in the future. Okay, for example, if you buy devices with 24 switches, but after 2 years, okay, you have around 30 users. Okay, so you need to know whether you need to buy a new one, new switch, or you can just buy the new interfaces that can be replaced in the switch. Okay, need also to think about it. Yeah, and then manageability. Yeah, so in terms of network management, yeah, the quality of service in terms of security. So how is it? Do you have the software to manage your switch or what? Okay, so this is a 5 factors that you need to consider when you choose a device. Okay, now after you have choose the types of devices that you want to buy, the next part is that you need to plan for the IP addressing. Okay, so you need to know what are the devices that you need to have IP address. First, you need to have the end devices. Okay, end devices here, the user's laptop, user's PCs. Okay, and then you need to think about what are the IP address that you need to put for your network printer. Okay, and then you also need to know what are the IP address that you need to put for the servers. Okay, and also for the routers and the switches. Okay, so you need to plan all that. So whether you want to put the IP address based on the department, okay, or you want to put the IP address based on the devices. Okay, for example, printer may have a specific IP address. Okay, maybe you use the second last IP address for every network. Yeah, you use for printer. Okay, for servers, maybe you put for the last 10 IP address of a particular network is for servers, and the rest is for your laptop, for the end user devices. Okay, so this also need to be planned. And you also need to decide, okay, with when you design the network, you need to decide, okay, for example, do you want to have a redundancy in your servers or not? Okay, so usually the server is located in the data center. For example, in UUM, we have UUM IT, the computer center. So there is where we put all our servers. Yeah, so all the servers is located in the UUM IT data center. Okay, so you need to decide whether you want the server to be redundant or no redundant. Okay, so this is one. Okay, you also need to consider for the links, the connection. You need to have redundant connection or no redundant connection for this to the servers. Okay, and the switch, the intermediary devices. Okay, you want to have redundant switch or not? Okay, similarly with the routers. Okay, so you want to have redundant routers or not? So all these things, all the design, so will give you different costs. That's why I said we have to know how much money that we have in the pocket. Then only we can think about the design. And then in some organization, so when you buy a very high-end routers or switch, okay, you can prioritize the traffic of the network. Okay, for example, if the traffic of the network is voice traffic, so we will give first priority or high priority. Or if it is a video traffic, so the router will give higher priority as compared to the email message. Okay, so this is prioritizing the traffic. Okay, for a very high-end server and switch, we will have this capacity. We have this capability to prioritize the traffic. Okay, of course, voice is more important than your email. Otherwise, you will get a very slow message. So that is not good. Because for email, doesn't matter when your email will arrive, okay? Because this is not a real-time application, okay? It's a delay tolerant application, but for real-time application like voice and video, you cannot tolerate with the delay. Okay, what is the difference between delay and jitter? Anyone knows delay and jitter? Delay and jitter. Anyone know what is the difference? Cari. Anyone? Delay and jitter. So which one is more important, delay or jitter? If you want to watch a video, you know delay, right? Delay. Tahu kan delay kan? Apa dia delay, Syafiq? Kelewatan. Lambat lembab bukan lembab. Okay, delay is delay lah. Delay. So for example, you send your message at 10 o'clock, so you receive your message at 5 minutes. So there is 5 minutes delay, kan? But if you, of course, there is a delay in the network. Okay, you cannot say that you send at 10 o'clock, you will receive at 10 o'clock. This is, I think this is not correct. Yeah. So the guy is cheating you. If he say that you can send at 10, you receive at 10. So this is something fishy lah. You being cheated lah by them, kan? So there must be delay in the network. But what is the acceptable delay? That is important. Okay, that is delay. So jitter is the variation of the delay. Okay, jitter is variation of the delays. So what I mean by variation of the delays, okay, for example, you wait for the bus, okay, you know the bus is always delayed every 5 minutes, okay. For example, if it says 10 o'clock, the bus will always come at 10:05 minutes. You know that already. So that is the delay, okay. But sometimes your bus delay 5 minutes, the next day your bus delay 10 minutes, another day the bus delay 2 minutes, another day the bus delay 20 minutes. So this is what we call as a jitter, a variation of the delays. Okay, so when you want to send real-time applications, the most important aspect is to reduce the jitter. Okay, so to avoid jitter, okay, you cannot have too much variation of the delays. Because why? Because when we run real-time application, for example, you want to watch video, the application level have some buffering. Okay, so our network will have some buffering. So it will know if the message, the segment received late, it will wait for a few minutes before it construct the whole segment, so that you can get a smooth view of the video in the network. Okay, but if there is a lot of jitter, you don't know what is the delay. That is different. So the application level cannot do the proper buffering. Okay, so if you know the delay is constant every 5 minutes, so you can put a buffer in your operating system to wait for 5 minutes before you construct the segment, so that you can give a good quality to the users. So this is some important aspects for the real-time application in terms of the network performance metrics. Delay and state doesn't mean that the delay is not good. It's okay. Delay is normal in the network. Okay, you cannot get accurate. You cannot get no delay. Okay, there must always be a delay in the network. Okay, but the most important thing is that the jitter. So you don't want to have too much variation of the delays. And then let's just look into the application in the okay, this is the, you can look, when you open the task manager, you can see a list of application layers services. So you need to know whether you need to have this DHCP servers in your organization. Of course, you need to have one. Okay, and then you need to have a DNS server, and then you need to have the web server, or you need to have the FTP server or not. So DNS, DHCP, and email, I think, and web is a common for any organization. Okay. And then, okay, yeah, this is what I mentioned just now. Okay, so you also need to know whether your organization want to use video applications or voice over IP. So, okay, for example, now when you use online class, you cannot avoid to use this voice and video application, WebEx or Zoom. Okay, so this one will have different types of devices, and your network should be able to cater for this type of services. The infrastructure should be ready. Okay, sorry, 9:38. So I think I'll stop here. So is there anything that you want to ask? I will be available until 10:30. So those who want to leave, they can leave now. All right. So thank you very much. Don't forget, you have second attempt for SPA1 on Tuesday. Okay. Those who doesn't want to take it, it's okay, but you can just do for your exercise. All right. Thank you very much. So those who want to leave can leave. Those who want to ask question can ask until 10:30.